Russia launches largest UAV attack on Kyiv since beginning of the year. In the early hours of June 6th, Ukraine's capital Kyiv was rocked by a large-scale drone attack from Russia. This was regarded as one of the most intense UAV assaults since the beginning of the year, with dozens of drones simultaneously targeting multiple areas of the city from at least 4 directions: east, west, south, and northeast. The UAVs carrying explosives struck both military and civilian targets. Some managed to breach Ukraine's dense air defense system, causing large explosions and sparking major fires, particularly in the Darnitsky district. A shopping center in the city center was also reportedly hit, although Ukrainian authorities have not confirmed this officially. Firefighters took hours to bring the blaze under control, while rescue operations continued to search for people trapped beneath the rubble. Kyiv's air defense system, once considered a steel shield, showed signs of being overwhelmed. The massive number of drones attacking from various directions exposed vulnerabilities in the capital's defenses and raised questions about its ability to withstand future assaults. Observers noted that this attack was not solely aimed at damaging infrastructure, but also carried symbolic weight. After months of Kyiv being a strategic no-go zone, Russia appears to be shifting to an offensive posture, ready to bring the war closer to the seat of Ukraine's power. This could be the beginning of a new military campaign, indicating a significant shift on the battlefield. 3 main Ukrainian brigades. Surrender in the east, changing battlefield dynamics. In a stunning development on the Eastern Front, 3 key brigades of the Ukrainian armed forces reportedly surrendered to Russian forces after withstanding sustained attacks. The Russian side confirmed the information on June 6th, accompanied by images and videos showing hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers laying down their weapons and leaving their positions in an organized withdrawal to prisoner collection points. The surrendered units include the 23rd Mechanized Infantry Brigade, the 31st Assault Brigade, and the 110th Defense Brigade, all of which played crucial roles in holding back Russian advances in Donetsk and Luhansk for months. Russian media claimed the surrender resulted from severe shortages in logistics, ammunition, and reinforcements. In some video clips, Ukrainian soldiers appeared to admit they had lost the will to fight after enduring relentless artillery barrages and suicide drone strikes. This event may mark a turning point in the eastern conflict. The simultaneous loss of 3 experienced brigades jeopardizes Ukraine's defensive lines around Chasiv Yar, Avdiivka, and Toretsk. Russia is believed to be deploying additional forces to exploit this opening and push deeper into areas still under Ukrainian control. Analysts believe that the mass surrender reflects not only the intense pressure from Russian forces, but also growing fatigue and resource depletion within the Ukrainian military after over 2 years of war. While Ukraine has yet to issue an official response, unconfirmed sources say its military command is considering a major restructuring of eastern defenses amid the current challenges. Russia launches strategic counteroffensive. Pincer movement targets Kyiv. Amid escalating warfare, Russia has launched a major counteroffensive aimed at strategically tightening its grip on Kyiv from 2 main directions. Observers see this move as a turning point, signaling Moscow's shift from localized defense to an aggressive push to regain battlefield initiative. According to Russia's Ministry of Defense, the operation was launched simultaneously from the northeast, via the Chernihiv region, and the northwest, via Zhytomyr. The offensive combines mechanized infantry, heavy artillery, and precision strikes carried out by drones and cruise missiles. The goal is to maximize pressure on Kyiv's northern defense ring, forcing Ukraine to thin its defenses elsewhere to protect the capital. Preliminary reports indicate that Russia has seized several strategic positions in Kyiv's northern outskirts and disrupted key Ukrainian supply and logistics routes. At the same time, suicide drones and missile strikes have hit multiple military facilities, ammunition depots, and troop staging areas near Kyiv, hampering reinforcement and resupply efforts. Western military analysts describe this as a double pincer tactic, meant to disperse Ukrainian forces, create psychological disarray, and establish a strategic encirclement of the capital. If successful, the campaign could significantly weaken Kyiv's defenses and provide Russia with a launchpad for deeper incursions into central Ukraine. Kyiv has yet to officially respond to the counteroffensive's scale and impact, though multiple sources suggest the Ukrainian General Staff has deployed reserve brigades from the west to reinforce the capital's defense. Ukraine's spiderweb operation, a double-edged sword on the modern battlefield. In an attempt to shift momentum, Ukraine recently launched a special operation dubbed Spiderweb, aimed at exploiting advanced technology and asymmetric tactics to damage Russian forces. Military experts, however, caution that the campaign is a double-edged sword, potentially effective in the short term, but strategically risky in the long run. The Spiderweb operation relies on deploying clusters of attack drones, long-range electronic surveillance equipment, and elite commando units to strike at weak points in Russian defenses. These surprise attacks typically occur at night or in poor weather, complicating Russian defensive efforts. Some attacks under the operation have caused significant damage, destroying radar stations, fuel depots, and tactical command centers in Donetsk and Zaporizhia. The drone network has also been used to jam signals and disrupt Russian command communications. However, the campaign's heavy dependence on technology, especially drones and remote control systems, is its Achilles heel. Russia's rapid deployment of modern air defense systems like Pantsir S-1 and Buk M3, along with strong electronic warfare (EW) capabilities, has resulted in many Ukrainian drones being intercepted or disabled before reaching their targets. Moreover, Ukraine's focus on asymmetric attacks has consumed vast resources with uncertain strategic returns. Some analysts warn that if Russia adapts and launches a counter-strategy, a so-called reverse spider trap, Ukraine could suffer heavy losses or even face setbacks using its own tactics. Thus, the Spiderweb campaign represents both Ukraine's ingenuity in modern warfare and the perilous landscape it must navigate in an increasingly complex and brutal conflict. United States and the West, a puzzling silence amid Ukraine's turmoil. As the Ukraine war enters a critical phase with new Russian advances, observers are increasingly noting the unusual silence from the United States and Western allies. Previously, even minor shifts on the battlefield drew strong statements from Washington, London, or Brussels. Yet now, amid reports of major counteroffensives, Ukrainian setbacks, and Russian progress, the West seems oddly quiet. This silence comes as conditions worsen for Kyiv, particularly on the eastern and northeastern fronts. Key areas risk isolation, and Ukrainian forces are repeatedly retreating to avoid encirclement. Meanwhile, the Kremlin appears increasingly confident in the outcomes of its military campaign, launching strategically calculated counterattacks. In contrast to the early war period, when the West regularly announced new military aid packages and issued stern warnings to Russia, recent months have seen few bold statements or significant new support plans. While small aid packages continue, their scale and frequency have clearly diminished. Analysts suggest this silence may reflect a broader strategic fatigue in the West. After more than 2 years of continuous support, Western governments, facing internal economic crises, political instability, and upcoming elections, are under pressure. With no clear signs of Ukrainian victory, public skepticism is rising. Some speculate that the silence is not passive, but deliberate, a prelude to major policy shifts, possibly even a gradual withdrawal from active involvement in the conflict, transferring the burden to regional actors. Regardless of the reason, the West's puzzling silence is raising international concern and creating an information vacuum that Russia may exploit to strengthen its position both on the battlefield and in the global diplomatic arena. The economic war. EU tightens sanctions. Russia finds loopholes. The Russia-Ukraine conflict is not confined to the battlefield, but also fuels a fierce and ongoing economic war. While the European Union (EU) continues expanding and tightening sanctions aimed at crippling Russia's economy, Moscow has shown surprising adaptability through strategic loopholes and circumvention tactics. Recently, the EU unveiled its 14th sanctions package, targeting high-tech equipment supplies, banning additional exports, and penalizing companies accused of directly supporting Russia's war efforts. Brussels emphasized that these measures are meant to tighten financial and technological constraints on the Kremlin. Nevertheless, Russia appears well prepared. Through a vast network of intermediaries, particularly in Central Asia, South Asia, and even the Middle East, it continues to import restricted goods, from semiconductors to industrial tools. Some non-sanctioning countries have even become transit hubs for Western goods entering Russia indirectly. Additionally, Moscow has ramped up trade with partners like China, India, and Iran, redirecting commerce and investment flows away from Europe. Although forced to sell oil and gas at discounted prices, Russia still maintains the foreign currency reserves necessary to sustain its economy and military spending. It is also worth noting that prolonged sanctions are not only pressuring Russia, but also straining Europe's own economies. High energy prices, disrupted supply chains, and inflation have caused internal instability across many EU nations. This raises the question: are long-term sanctions still effective, or are they gradually losing their impact? In this context, the economic war between Russia and the EU has become a prolonged battle of wits, where each side adapts, maneuvers, and exploits gaps in the global system to safeguard their strategic interests. Thank you for following the story.